In this second part of our interview with Chris Roberts from Cloud Imperium Games, we talk about the upcoming demo for Alpha 3.0 that will be shown at CitizenCon on October 9th. We also talk with Chris about some of the challenges faced in refactoring the engine, talking about lighting tech, visual effects, hands-on with the environments and worlds and things like that. Before getting to that content, this is brought to you by Antec and their new MIT X Cube case as designed by Razer, which has an aluminum shell, is an MIT X form factor, and uses acrylic glass on both sides. Now, as for the content, you'll want to check back on Friday as well for our first part of the interview with Sean Tracy, the technical director at Cloud Imperium Games. But let's get to the content. So V2 for procedural generation, where's the planned unveil? Is that CitizenCon for this?
Yeah. So we're going to show, so at CitizenCon, we're going to show it's not a world that will be in in 3.0 because it's we decided because our 3.0 worlds are very specific. There's one's a gas giant which you can't go down onto. One's a sort of polluted, sort of overmined world, and another one's essentially a sort of snow ice planet like Hoth or something. And then ArcCorp's one just covered with buildings. So we wanted to show one that had a bit more of a variety, like oceans and forest and deserts and mountains, just so you can see the variety of kind of biomes. And so that's what we're calling our Homestead demo at the moment, although Homestead's not appropriate for what it's turned into. But it's got some pretty fun stuff in it. Sean, sitting over here, is sort of working pretty hard on it with a bunch of other pretty talented people. So that's sort of showing off sort of the potential of the V2 planet and some of the cool stuff and potentially some of the sort of play action that you can happen in 3.0. And then we're doing taking one of the missions that's in Squadron 42, and we're sort of showing how that would feel like, from getting your briefing to getting to your ship to taking off to flying on the mission. Right. The combination of sort of like flying and running around FPS stuff. So that's and so those are the two things we're going to show. We're basically going to show sort of a full focus. This is what V2 planets can do for you, and then this is what Squadron 42 is going to feel like and play like, and this is sort of the experience of a mission in Squadron 42.
Sure. So Squadron 42 is, I'm not going to put any release questions out because we've talked about it before.
I don't talk about the dates.
But so it's being demoed basically is the big news at CitizenCon.
Yeah, so this is the first time we will show more complete gameplay. I mean, we showed last year at CitizenCon kind of an example of the walking around, talking character stuff, but it was very early. Our character tech has come on, like, I mean, we're going to release a 10 for the Chairman talking about some of the character stuff, and if you look at that and you look at the quality of the characters compared to what was last year, it's night and day. I mean, I truly feel that our character stuff that we're showing is best in class at the moment. So but we're going to sort of show a more complete, like, this is actually kind of like, here you are, you wake up on the ship, you go get your briefing, you do your mission. This is what like one sort of sequence of events or what we call chapters in the game would feel and look like.
With the character tech, is there anything specifically you can talk about that's improved that you are particularly proud of?
Well, you can ask Sean more questions about that, but I mean, there's a lot of things that have, I mean, the issue when we did the Morrow tour was that we'd only just managed to get some of the stuff in. There was a bunch of stuff that was broken in the shaders, whether it was the skin or the eye shader or the hair shader. The lighting was completely balked. We were missing like so in the Senate speech, which was the best looking one, where you saw the blend maps and the wrinkle maps and the diffuse map, the tangents on them were wrong, and the actual skinning of him was incorrect. It was a linear skin instead of a quaternion skin. So he looked a bit chipmunky and was wrong, although we thought it looked pretty good at the time. And then the stuff that was live in the game wasn't firing, like a bunch of the things like the wrinkle maps, the blend shapes, and like I said, the lighting and everything was kind of broken in it. So the characters now are leaps and bounds, because not only have we and there were also some raw deliveries of the head first stage, but they didn't have any additional sort of time spent on making them look good. So we have a process where we scan the actors, but we scan the actors, they don't have any makeup on, because you don't want to have makeup on for the process of the photogrammetry that you build a head with. And so we didn't really have any time to work on those when we did the Murator this time, so every actor gets a pass, he gets, essentially made up like a makeup artist would, make an actor look good for shooting, and we've made a lot of improvements to essentially how the whole rig and the engine works, so the goal is that as you're moving around and you're talking to people, you will be seeing what you've traditionally seen as pre-rendered cinematic quality live in the engine, talking to these characters, and that is the goal. I think with CitizenCon we will show something that's a lot closer to that. It will still get much better than what we'll show at CitizenCon as we continue to work and iterate on it, because there's a lot of stuff that you dial in at the very end, like with the eyes and the hair and the skin. So our hair work still has a lot of stuff to, like we wouldn't be able to have your hair look as nice as it does right now in the engine right now. But we will. I mean, that's all sort of shader in terms of how the translucency and the cards work and everything. So we've made some fixes, but we haven't had a lot of chance. The graphics department's been very busy. They've got a huge long list of stuff, and some of the list of stuff's been very fundamental. So like, a massive change we did, which people may not think about, is that, if you see, I think every 3D engine I know moves the sun. So basically the sun moves, right? Well, the sun doesn't really move in our solar system. It stays in the middle and we move around it. So there was a massive change in the engine where the sun is fixed in place, and so it depends on where you are relative to the sun is where the lighting is. It's not that the sun's moving, you move. And that's actually a fairly fundamental base rendering and shading change. So that was an example of something that we had to do because of what we're doing with our star systems. And so night and day cycles on a planet for us will not be because the sun's moving. It will be because our planet is rotating on its axis. And we'll also be able to rotate the planet around the sun.
It's not really something I've thought about from the perspective of playing a game where, because you're not normally traveling around multiple planets, obviously, on a fixed small map. So that seems like it would be a pretty big technical challenge.
No, it's big. Well, I mean, that's why we say a lot of the fundamental of the rendering and the shading and how we approach is completely being refactored from the way it used to be in CryEngine, because we moved to 64-bit, which was a big deal for the precision. Which we moved to last year, which sort of was enabled what we could do with 2.0, but there's a lot of other things, like I was saying, moving the sun to be actually an actual fixed entity that casts its light correctly, as opposed to being some because usually it's kind of a special little case in a shader or the rendering pipeline, but they're all being built. So because our approach is we're doing this at a sort of galactic scale, basically, and so we can't, some of the cheats you would use in other cases, it's the same reason for the first and third person unification. So some of the cheats that you would use in games that would be more of limited, like travel or scope, we could probably short-term get away with them, but we create all sorts of headaches for us. So generally we always go, okay, how would this work properly? How systemically should this function? It's like what I was mentioning with the cloud simulation and the weather simulation. We could create a visual effects artist could create a flow map for clouds, and it would look pretty cool and everything, but then you'd have to be creating flow maps for every single planet you do, and it won't fall out of it. Whereas this way, if they create the planet and the biomes control, okay, this is a hot area, this is a cold area, and then the simulation just simulates the kind of wind and the weather patterns, which would generate the cloud patterns, then you just don't have to do anything. So it takes more work to do that up front, but longer term, it allows for a greater sort of range of gameplay and fidelity, and also less work needed down the road. So generally our approach has been, we've been investing the time in the upfront stuff because of the long-term payoff, mostly because we know that 3.0 and beyond, I mean, we're building we're not building something that we're going to release and you're going to play in 2 weeks, right? You're going to hopefully you're going to play this game for years and years and years. And so we're thinking, okay, well, what do we, this is at least a 10-year. Our hope anyway is to be around for 10 years after we release, in the same way that Eve has been, or World of Warcraft has been, or whatever. And to do that, that's one of the reasons why we're trying to engineer it right, which does mean that it takes us longer to get to the sort of initial stage where we said, we'd have a game ready for you. We do obviously letting people play it as we're building it, but I think it's the right approach to build something for the long term.
Well, a game as large as Star Citizen, just the programming impact alone of a Band-Aid fix down the line seems.
Well, no, I will say that in almost every case, a lot of we get we get the releases like 2.4 or 2.5 out, and an inordinate amount of time is spent fixing and patching systems that essentially generate bugs because they were just sort of patched and hacked in a certain way to work for a certain case.
Right.
So a lot of, and in some ways it takes us longer to QA and get through things than we would like, because there's been sort of a lot of short-term thinking in earlier iterations, because they're like, well, we're just making a game for this, and it's just a first-person shooter, and so there's shortcuts and it's not just CryEngine, most engines do this, and so invariably in all these cases we say, well, it's just not going to scale to what we need, and we've got to adapt and change things around for that. So we have been, because we've had the support, which is great, so thank you everyone out there for supporting us, it's allowed us to sort of go in and do things right, so to speak, which is all foundational for a long-running, robust game that will have a lot of emergent gameplay, because that for me is super important. I mean, I really love this idea, and I can already see it in what people do right now in 2.5, but seeing the community go up and just do things that we weren't even thinking about because the system allows it. And so our thinking is always about how can we create a system for people rather than specifically kind of control exactly what they want to do, and say, let them operate inside this set of rules in this system and make it work.
So for more information, if this wasn't enough information, CitizenCon would be the place to look next.
Yep.
Can you give everyone dates or
time? CitizenCon is October 9th, so it's on Sunday. It'll be held here in Los Angeles. I think there'll be more information on our website. I believe we're going to start at midday, is that right, Jared?
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Midday in Hawaii is where we're going to start. So 3 p.m. in LA. It should be fun. I mean, we every year we do this event, which is essentially a celebration of when we first announced the project, and the amazing community we have and the support they've given us. And I mean, look, sitting in this amazing office, we've got 3 other big. I mean, this is actually not the biggest studio. The UK studio's much bigger than this one. It's about 185 people now, I think. So it's about 3 times bigger than this one. But we've been enabled by this amazing community that support us to do this, and we're just building the best, the game that I don't think I would ever be able to build anywhere else. I don't think any publisher would be crazy enough to invest this kind of time and money into it. Probably venture capitalists, all the rest, wouldn't have the patience to do it. But it's allowing us to build something long term, and so that is pretty awesome. And so we CitizenCon sort of celebrating how that started, celebrating the community for helping us, start and continue on the journey.
Well, to use your quote from one of our first interviews, building the best damn space sim ever.
Well, it's not even best damn space sim anymore, because it's best damn everything sim. I think, as far as we've especially with the way the procedural planets have, it moved on. We were enabled to do that by everyone's support, which allowed us to sort of open up the Frankfurt office and hire up some people that are incredibly talented, and then their work went better than we thought it was going to work. And so that's kind of the iterative way that Star Citizen works, where we're like, okay, now because I wasn't thinking we'd be able to do what we're going to be able to do now, but the additional play possibilities that comes with it, and what players can do by themselves is, it's really, really exciting, because you've sort of opened up a much bigger palette of things that you can do just because you have planetary locations you can do things on, go recover things, rescue people, create your own little place, whatever you want to do, whereas before we were more limited to space and then landing areas that were, just a certain area.
Right.
So it's from a game designer standpoint, so I'm making games, it's super exciting because it just means the world's going to feel bigger and more alive. And anyway, so CitizenCon is where we celebrate everyone enabling us to do that. We tend to show kind of the next step of stuff that we're working on, it's a fun event.
So links in the description below for more information on that. We'll post a link to the Roberts Space Industries website so you can figure out when that is, live stream, stuff like that. And as always, Patreon link in the post-roll video if you want to help us out directly. Subscribe for more content because we have additional interviews from this meeting. And I'll see you all next time.
All right. Thank you all, guys. Thank you very much. And anyone that supported Star Citizen, thank you for supporting Star Citizen.